jaaka ke setse ke buile ke bidiwa Emma Peloetletse. I'm the permanent secretary to the president. Maybe can introduce my colleagues maybe before I start,
Yes.
Chair, with your permission.
Yes.
Kenale Mema Macholo. Mema Macholo is Director of Public Service Management. Then Kenale Tlak to Cabinet, Re John Moretti. I'm hoping that as we continue these discussions, my deputy will be here, Wasanzali held up, and also the General Counsel. But the reason why I call them is because broadly that they cover my mandate in terms of facilitating my office. I'm wearing 3 hats, and the first hat is that of the permanent secretary to the president. And that basically entails looking at the functions under the office of the president and facilitating the president in terms of those functions. If you remember, recently there was a gazette that detailed functions of all the whole of government portfolios. And if you look at those functions, really it's for my office to facilitate him to carry out those functions. But at high level, basically, I can say I'm his hand, where he has to communicate either externally or internally. I have to write those letters and on his behalf sometimes. And also provide strategic advice. He meets a lot of people, be it internally or externally. We have to be in those meetings really to facilitate him in terms of the strategic advisory. And also coordination of the speeches sometimes as he is invited to all the strategic meetings, both also internally and externally. We coordinate those. And also when it comes to making decisions, like when the new government came into the office, there was a decision that they need to relook at the government portfolios and align them to the vision that they carry. And as a result, rationalization of those offices, we advised on how he can actually rationalize those offices. Basically, this is what the office of the PSP to the president entails. And then I'm also wearing a hat here, the secretary to cabinet. And that hat basically entails the fact that I chair a committee called Cabinet Business Committee. And this committee basically looks at what the ministries are generating in terms of bills, policies, strategies, and any other brief, really, that goes to cabinet. And we sit there and look at them, technically advise the ministries, the bills. We also look at them and technically advise the ministries. They make corrections and bring those back to the office. And that also entails advising cabinet on the agenda of cabinet. Every time they meet weekly on Wednesdays. So we advise which cabinet memorandums are ready for their consumption. So we do that on a weekly basis. I'm also an ex-officio member of cabinet, together with the Attorney General. On the floor of cabinet, if there are any technical issues that we need to actually advise cabinet on, be it a policy of government or any law of government, we advise as and when, so that when they make decisions of cabinet, those decisions are well informed. We also take minutes. I have the clerk here to cabinet, Mr. Moretti. We copiously take minutes of cabinet and make sure that we present them to the next cabinet meeting, and then they approve them. And after which we also issue what you call presidential directives, any decision that culminates into a presidential directive, we make sure that the president announces the position, whether they agree with the submission from the minister or they disagree. And on the basis of that decision, really, we generate what we call a presidential cabinet directive. So we make sure that whatever has been decided and agreed, we generate those cabinet, presidential cabinet directives. I'm also the head of public service, and this is the reason why really I brought in Mama Cholo. This one is very broad. Really, it involves cascading of government policies and any other public reform that we want to undertake. We facilitate appointment of public officers across, and we ensure equitable provision of public services the best we know how. Of course, as you will be aware, or at the district level, council secretaries, land board secretaries, etc., etc. So those provide services to Botswana, basically. And if there is any need for us to guide further or provide any guidelines for that matter, we do so. We address them on these policies, making sure that they understand these policies and also apply them as directed. I chair many committees and many boards, and just out of courtesy, I can share with you the few that I chair. I chair the upper panel, and this is basically facilitated by the Directorate of Public Service Management. Basically, what this panel does is to look at an entity of government and say, are the people that are there, appointed there, the right people in terms of the numbers, in terms of the levels. So we do what we call job effectiveness descriptions so that people know what exactly their jobs entail. Of course, within the confines of the budget, and finally, agreement by the leadership. I also chair the National Coordinating Committee on Financial Intelligence, and that committee basically looks at issues of anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, and many other issues related to really threats, proliferation financing as well. I do chair the Doing Business Reforms Committee, also ensuring that we roll the red carpet to our investors when they come to Botswana, and also remove any barriers that may be there. And we are facilitated in that regard by the Ministry of Trade and Entrepreneurship. We also, in that committee, have our strategic partners as well as the private sector in the same committee. And we talk about a host of issues, from the barriers to what we can improve and what we have achieved, how can we speed up, so to speak. I also chair the Performance Management Forum, and this is a forum where on a monthly basis we meet as accounting officers. I've just had the chairperson talking to 25, having received about 25 accounting officers. This is a committee basically of those. We sit down, we look at where we can improve, we discuss issues holistically around how we can actually improve the public service even going forward. Some of the interventions as far as the reforms are concerned comes from this office. If there's any law, new law, if there's any maybe amendment to a law, this is where we discuss some of these issues. We invite, of course, on regular basis, other members who are not members of the committee, but just members who can actually enrich us when we discuss and debate on some of these issues. So these are broadly some of the mandate that I do in the office. Of course, I did not go into the details or nitty-gritty that thing, but generally, broadly, this is what I do on a daily basis.
Thank you
very much, sir.
Thank you very much. How also valolo la jalo in keep posar tube kana khona go dira ke motho le mongwe helo go le ga ile tiro tona thata ya PSP me I think se sengwe se re thusegileng ka sone ke gone go itse go appreciate gore tiro ya PSP ke I don't think rothe ba rona re ne re itse jalo me sengwe sa di o tse leng gore they were of particular interest to ourselves is the issue ya gore you are head of the public service. I think that to me particularly it becomes an issue of interest because against regularly accounting officers baba harloganeng and then gongwe motho ka batla go itsegela gore gone as the head of the public service what does that mean in terms of your relationship to the accounting officers? Are you the direct supervisor or they report to you directly and ba reporta jalo leng morago nako e kae if one may ask?
In terms of the law, Ghana, the various sectors are appointed by the president. If you look at the appointment of a minister who gives really direction and control of the sector, he or she is appointed by the president. The accounting officer also is appointed by the president by law. However, when it comes to the supervision, we co-supervise the accounting officer. Because as the controller and director of a sector, the minister should have a leeway of saying to the accounting officer, let's do this, here we can improve. But as the head of public office or service, I also have a mandate to make sure that that which has been agreed and given to the accounting officer for a specific sector, I superintend and make sure that, for instance, whatever comes from cabinet in terms of the presidential directives are being effectively implemented. I make sure that where they are lacking, I provide guidance, be it training them, be it even counseling sometimes, because you will agree with me that this is not a very easy job to be an accounting officer. And most of the time, they also even need not only technical advice and counseling, but also emotional and social advice and counseling. I do that. And you may wonder, if you do that, wena o counselor kema. I have my own counselors, because I also can make mistakes like any other human beings. And also, I'm also deeply entrenched when it comes to the job of being the PSP. Sometimes you encounter situations that also needs you. And also my boss, really, he counsels me a lot and gives me daily directions. But I'm the super accounting officer, if that is the word that the Honorable House is looking for.
Yes.
When the accounting officer is unable to make a decision, I can direct that accounting officer do this or that.
Okay.
So this is basically where I feature in.
Yeah. I was interested in the co-supervision part, that you and the minister co-supervise accounting officers. And to that extent, one would then want to know if, for some reason, the accounting officer is unable to discharge their duties. Whose call is it to say, no, you have honey?
It's a co-responsibility, really, because Ghana minister, because we go on daily basis. Wa bona gore o batla go pusha eng, o batla go dira eng, mandate ke eng, and therefore sometimes the minister will say, hey, kana go ha do ga e tsamaye sentle. Le nne be re ke asesa tota be ke bona gore I've called you several times. We have given you the development that you needed, but still, and therefore, that decision can be made. Amicable. Totang, I would say, is sort of a tripartite. Yes.
Totally are not in charge. Yang ba neelwa motho hela yo ile hore ba bona ro apallwa mme ga gona sepe se se kalokalo se ba ka se dira. A ke re rona ra bore ba tsentse mo mogoteng ka ko parlamenteng re ba botsa dipotso gantele ha re le morago ba to ba supa gore nya mme ka re go ha nna ke gore ke netswe motho o sa kgone. So but ke tsa gore we clarify ile in that respect. Let us go to the issue of appointment of accounting officer.